and I don't think I'm ever going to stop. It's just that I don't see an end.
It's interesting to me because I know I found out, like with Sacramento, there's a few well, it used to be speakeasies along the river, and it never occurred to me, because of prohibition and all that, it never occurred to me that the mob was actually here. But I remember the people that own the hotels telling me that that when guys would go bad or something would go down, they would dump the bodies in the river. So it shocked me because you just don't think about that. Like you say, you don't think about it in your own hometown.
Oh yeah, and it varies city to city, state to state. I mean, I don't think we're going to see a lot of mob activity in maybe Montana or Wyoming,
Yeah,
but anywhere that somebody wants a drink and it's not legal, or somebody wants to gamble and it's not legal, or they want a pretty lady and it's not legal for what they want to do. Somebody has to fill that market. So no matter where you are, there's somebody willing to fill that market.
absolutely. So tell me about the mafia influence in Milwaukee. When did it all start up?
Uh, as best I can tell, it really kicked off in the beginning of the 1900s. I'd say about 1903. And it could be give or take a few years, but that's when I know for sure that there were mob guys in Milwaukee actively doing things that we would call mob activity. And it just sort of took off from there. And the same things we see in Chicago, New York, or anywhere else, you see in Milwaukee. You see the bootlegging, you see the gambling, you see the prostitution, you see them threatening people who, if they don't pay, we're going to bomb your house. I mean, it's like cookie cutter. Anywhere in the United States, or even Canada for that matter, it's like they were doing the exact same playbook in every city throughout North America. So I don't know if they were all like sharing tips with each other or what, but it seems like you can check at any point in time, and it was the same thing going on everywhere.
Well, when people my age, I'm not going to say how old I am because, but when we think of Milwaukee, I think of Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley,
Yeah, sure.
that it's like that. You don't think about that whole underworld thing going on.
No, that's fair. And really, Milwaukee likes to pride itself as being what they call a city of neighborhoods. Even though it's the biggest city in Wisconsin, it's still really just a small town at heart.
Mm-hmm.
It is that Happy Days. It is, everybody knows everybody. Maybe there's a million people, but somehow you know everybody one way or another. So yeah, you don't think about it in that way, but again, like I say, anywhere you have a group that wants to supply a business that other people are looking for, it's there. I mean, for a while, pornography was hard to come by. Now it's easy as, anything, but for a while it's hard to come by. Well, you got to have somebody who's willing to do that. So no matter where you go, Milwaukee's no exception. You see it across the board. And we can get into specifics if you want, but it just in general, although in the daytime, yeah, it is that Happy Days kind of a place. There's still, it's all the market. The market decides whether the mob lives or dies. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So who were the prominent mobsters in Milwaukee?
it depends on the time period, but by far the most well known was a man named Frank Balistrieri. And Frank Balistrieri is said to have become the mob boss in the early 1960s, and he stayed on top all the way up through the 1980s when he served out the remainder of his life in prison. But he was involved in just about anything that the mob had its fingers in. But he got really known on a national level because he helped supply the Teamsters money to purchase the Stardust and a couple other casinos in Vegas for the mob. So Milwaukee was a really key piece to that Midwest mob getting into Vegas situation. So he was known for that. In fact, the front man, the clean guy you got to put out front, was a man named Alan Glick, and Alan Glick just passed away this last year. And yeah, and And Glick wouldn't have been there without Frank Balistrieri, and Frank Balistrieri couldn't have been there without Alan Glick. So it was kind of like one of the last pieces of the puzzle disappeared last year.
Now, when you say earlier when you started the interview about them, like all being in the same playbook, or being in contact with each other, could that be true? I mean, obviously, like the people in New York had a say in what went on in Milwaukee and stuff, right?
To a point, yeah. I mean, every mob city is independent. I mean, when you're the boss, you're the boss. I mean, you do what you want. You don't really answer to anybody. But yes, there's some truth to that, where every so often they would have national meetings. They had one in Chicago. They had some in New York. You said you were from Cleveland originally. There was a famous mob meeting at the Statler Hotel in Cleveland at one point. So yeah, they did periodically get together, and we don't always know what they discussed, but the point is, the important part is that we know that all these guys, whether they lived in New York, Milwaukee, or Los Angeles, they knew each other.
Sure.
They maybe didn't talk on a day-to-day basis, but they knew who their guys were that they could cooperate with. So yeah, I don't know if it comes down to like actually,